Okay, great. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, go live.
Hello and welcome to our Facebook Live. Today we're talking about acrylamide, a chemical that is present in some high starch foods when cooked at high temperatures. We're going to be talking a bit about where it's included in our diets and the things we can do to avoid eating too much of it. I'm joined by Mark Willis from the Food Standards Agency,
Hi.
who's head of Contaminants Branch, and by a nutritional therapist, Liz Butler.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you both for coming. Mark, first of all, tell us a little bit about why you are launching your campaign today on acrylamide.
Right, well, acrylamide is a chemical that's formed when you cook starch or starchy foods at high temperatures. It's always been in our diet ever since we were cooking, but it's also possibly a human carcinogen. It's definitely carcinogen in animal studies, and as we think it probably is a problem for humans as well, we should do what we do to reduce the levels in food.
And tell us about some of the foods that it is present in. What should we be worried about when we're cooking at home?
Generally, it's the starchy foods. So it's these potatoes, bread, cereals, that sort of thing. And when you cook them, roast them, grill them, cook them at high temperatures for reasonable periods of time.
Okay. Let's have a chat to Liz, because Liz knows an awful lot about food and what's good for us. Liz, you've got some things on your table to show us, which may include acrylamide and that we should be careful and wary of, haven't you? Tell us a bit about them.
Well, first of all, we've got things that we wouldn't generally recommend people eat too much anyway, of things like crisps, biscuits, chips. They contain fairly high levels of acrylamides, and we would generally say have those as a treat more than every day. There are also some foods that people do eat on a daily basis, though, that can contain acrylamides, things like bread, particularly when it's toasted, and particularly when it's very well toasted, as this slice is. Also things like breakfast cereals and crisp breads, and potatoes when they're cooked, depending on how you cook them. So if you boil them, then the acrylamide levels are very low or non-existent. It's when you fry them or roast them, particularly when they're very well done, that's when there's a particular problem.
So it's to do with the colour. Is that how we can know when acrylamide appears?
When things are darker brown and crunchy, that's when the acrylamide levels are likely to be higher.
So if we just look at this toast, we've got a very lightly coloured bit of toast here and a much darker piece here. So what you're saying is
go for this.
Go for the
colour,
golden one.
Go for gold as the Food Standard.
Try not to go for the go for the burnt one.
Yes.
And that's your message, isn't it, Mark? Is it go for gold?
Exactly, go for gold. Basically, for those products you enjoy, cook them to the lightest golden you prefer and not the dark browns. That's the basic message. And also with things like the oven chips, follow the instructions on the pack. Basically, the manufacturers have done a lot of work to make sure the levels are as low as possible, and follow their instructions, because that way you get a good product and also not too much acrylamide.
Because I know when I'm cooking oven chips at home, there's a tendency to give them just a little bit longer, so they go a little bit crispy at the edges and maybe a little bit brown. But what you're saying is stick to the timings.
Stick to the temperatures and also follow the full instructions. So generally preheat the oven, because that way you get the better product.
Okay, I've got a question from Anik, who's contacted us via Facebook. Thanks for your question. He says, what about roast potatoes? So what's the advice there?
Roast potatoes is exactly the same. I mean, obviously the roasting process, the Maillard reaction, which gives you the nice tasty product, that's also the browning process and also causes acrylamide. So cook them to the lightest golden or golden brown that you prefer. Avoid those really dark, crunchy bits.
Okay, something to remember for Christmas.
Exactly, and the occasional good Sunday lunch.
Yeah, exactly. And Liz, you've been telling us about some breakfast. So many of our breakfasts are dominated by bread and starchy products.
Toast and cereals is what most people have for breakfast. So I was just going to give you some ideas on alternatives that go a bit beyond those versions. And these are much lower in starch and therefore are going to be much lower in the acrylamide. So first of all, I've just got some plain natural yogurt with some fruit and some seeds, which is very easy, because some people think, oh, well, I haven't got time to do anything other than toast and cereal in the morning, but that literally takes seconds. And then this is some scrambled egg there with spinach, mushrooms and tomatoes. And one thing I wanted to say is that acrylamides are damaging for the body because they can damage the DNA. But vegetables and fruits contain compounds that protect against the DNA. So if we load up on the vegetables and fruits in the diet, then that can help protect against the damage that acrylamides are causing.
So this, I guess, is just another reason to eat a healthy, balanced diet, including all the fruit and vegetables we can, proteins.
And I mean, that's one of our key messages is basically do what you can to reduce acrylamide, you're following our guidance, but actually, generally, eating a healthy, balanced diet is the best way forward.
Okay, I've got a question from Jeremy here, who's contacted us via Facebook. Do the scientists know how much risk there is from eating black toast? Presumably, Jeremy burns his toast quite often during the week.
It's hard. I mean, basically, the studies show that acrylamide causes cancer in animals. Because of the mechanism, it's prudent to assume that it could also cause cancer in humans as well. So and the actual levels that we are exposed to in our diet are higher than we'd be comfortable with. So the best thing to do is do what we can to reduce the levels in the food. Food industry's done a lot of work already. There's those simple messages you can do at home.
Okay. And Stephen is asking, can we recommend to eat margarine and processed oils as opposed to butter? This is probably a slightly different question. Yes, but he's probably thinking about his health as well. Even though margarine is closer to plastic than anything edible. What do we know much about margarine and oils? That's not. They don't contain acrylamide,
and that's the choice for what you put on your toast rather than how you cook it.
Okay, fine. Now let's do a little bit of cooking because Liz has also got something else on the go, which is extremely healthy breakfast option.
Well, I know that a lot of people like their porridge, so I wanted to let people know that porridge is a much lower acrylamide breakfast than breakfast cereals. So if people like their porridge, then that's obviously good news. And so I'm just cooking it here. And what I would do with porridge is mix it with some fruit, ideally instead of sugar, because as I said before, the fruit protects our DNA against acrylamides and other damaging things.
Yeah, so I sometimes put bananas and raisins and things in there.
Yeah, you can cook it with the fruit, or as I was going to do, put the fruit on at the end.
Great for kids in the morning.
Absolutely.
And it keeps them going throughout the day.
Definitely. It's a slow releasing carbohydrate. So, definitely would recommend porridge.
Excellent. And then our other meals of the day, breakfast is obviously we need a good start to the day, so that needs to be healthy. I mean, lunch, again, we should be thinking about plenty of fruit and vegetables and not just opting for a sandwich, perhaps, which is, again, a sort of starch-heavy.
I mean, I think, again, I look at diaries all the time and you see bread featuring breakfast, lunch, and then maybe pasta and rice in the evening. So we do eat a lot of starch. And so I would encourage people to think of alternatives at breakfast, as we've seen. And then at lunch, people can think about possibly a big salad with some protein, maybe some fish, some chicken, some nuts and seeds, perhaps, rather than bread all the time. So definitely.
Absolutely. We've got a question from Stuart. Mark, I'll ask you this one. He says, isn't it true that all burnt stuff is potentially carcinogenic? Is that true? Or we just go too far down that
extremely burnt. Yeah. You can actually form different chemicals. But basically, with starchy food and heating at, let's say, above 120 degrees, you will form acrylamide. And the darker it is, the higher level of acrylamide present.
So the idea is, again, is just go for a light golden colour.
Light as you like.
Yeah.
Light as you can cope with and manage and still enjoy your food.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about manufacturers, because a lot of the food we buy has got acrylamide perhaps already in it because it's already been baked and roasted. Things like crisp. Tell us a bit about crisps.
We've known about acrylamide forming in food since the early 2000s. And the food industry's done a lot of work to investigate how it forms and why it forms. And even better, to find ways that they can reduce that. And they've done a lot of work themselves to reduce those levels. And we've seen downward trends in some categories of food. But there's still this unknown quantity of what consumers do in the home. So if they can follow the instructions on the pack, the levels will be as low as possible.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about the risk, how you calculated that this could be of concern for the public, because there's lots of other risk factors that could cause cancer that we know about, smoking, obesity and alcohol. So tell us where this ranks roughly.
It's hard to rank them against the ones that are known carcinogens, but we know that we're having a bit too much than we think we need, and therefore it's prudent to do what we can to reduce the levels. But we shouldn't panic. If you have an occasional bit of burnt toast, don't worry, but go for gold when you can.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks to Mark Willis and thanks to Liz Butler for their time today. Thank you for joining us on this Facebook Live.